Welcome back to the Democratic National Convention, and we are joined by a very special guest, actually one that we tried to get a hold of when we were in Milwaukee for the RNC. We are happy to be joined by Mayor Cavalier Johnson of Milwaukee. Thank you for joining us on Politics in Color.
Happy to join you.
Happy for you to be in Chicago, a little bit outside of your area, and you're coming off of a big convention yourself in your city.
Yeah, we are. Just a little bit outside, although, my dad's from Chicago, my wife's from Chicago. So I've got.
So you're a Bears fan.
Well, no. Let's not go that far.
Okay.
I like the winning team. Joe, just kidding.
That's great. So now that you're here at the convention and you can see how it's unfolding, it's larger than the RNC, which was in your city. The news around the Democratic National Convention is the amount of money that's being brought into the city of Chicago. Milwaukee received a lot of money as well to have the convention there. How do you feel about how that played out?
Well, this was our first large-scale convention. I say it's the biggest thing that Milwaukee's ever done in terms of hosting the Republican National Convention just last month in the city. We had an opportunity there to bring in tens of thousands of people from across the country and around the world, and certainly there was an economic impact. We'll see what it looks like for the remainder of the economy. We do have some preliminary numbers from the hotels. When you compare the week that the RNC took place from 2023 to 2024 when it happened, there was a $5 million worth of spend in 2023 and $19 million worth of spend in 2024. So that's some significant increase. We'll see what the rest of the economy bears out over the course of the next couple of months when those numbers are crunched.
Now, obviously, when we were in Milwaukee, in your city, for the RNC, we had no idea that we were going to be switching up presidents here at the Democratic National Convention. What's your overall thought, especially for people of color in that city of Milwaukee that you represent? What's the energy like now that there's been a switch in candidates?
So all of us, myself included, in Milwaukee, appreciate and value President Joe Biden, who is the consummate statesman and has done such a great job leading our country. I am super excited to hear him speak tonight and the message that he will deliver, not just for Democrats, but for Americans. But as it relates to the change at the top of the ticket, the first place that Kamala Harris landed when she became the presumptive nominee on the Democrat side was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she had held a huge rally in our community in a suburb called West Dallas, right next door to the city of Milwaukee. And the base there was so energized. Thousands of people across, all sectors of our community, rich and poor, black and white, Asian, Latino, gay and straight. Everybody was there to support the vice president. So the energy level is very, very high in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, and I think across the United States.
And I asked that question because obviously people of color sometimes have different issues that matter to them when they start to go to the voting booth. So the energy that we hear has happened since Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, has made is on this journey is important. And when we were in Milwaukee, we talked to locals. We visited lots of local shops and some very good food in Milwaukee from some of the black-owned restaurants. But some of their mindset was, why is the convention here? Why are we having the RNC in Milwaukee when the people that are representing the RNC don't necessarily represent the issues that we face in our community?
Sure, and that's a great question. So we, of course, won the Democratic National Convention in 2020, and unfortunately, because of COVID, it just wasn't able to pan out the way that we wanted to, that I wanted to happen. In 2024, we had the opportunity to host the Republican National Convention, have a second kick at the cat, and this is the thing for me. It was not just about the RNC, right? Certainly, I've got political differences with the Republican Party platform, absolutely with their leading candidate, Mr. Trump. However, hosting a large-scale political convention like that only helps to elevate Milwaukee. And by all accounts, from people that I've talked to from around the country and around the world that visited Milwaukee during that week, many of them had never been to Milwaukee or Wisconsin for that matter, their first time, and they all were blown away. So what I would like for that to happen is for it to create a virtuous economic cycle where people continue to come back. They continue to spend more dollars in our community, creating more jobs and circulating more dollars for businesses on the ground and workers on the ground who live in Milwaukee. It's not just about the RNC, it's about what comes next. It's about the large-scale political, business, sports, entertainment, trade shows, and things like that that'll come after hosting such an event.
So with an event like that, obviously there's contract money that comes. How much of that, and I'm not asking for percentages, but when people say, gosh, there's more security, oh, I can't get to my favorite restaurant, how many of those contracts, when you bring in a large convention like that, trickle down to the community, to some of the mom and pop shops?
Yeah, I don't have all that information at hand, but I mean, it is a very large...
Meaning, like, hopefully everyone is having a chance to eat off of those large $1 million contracts.
Absolutely, and with some of our work, we help to boost the contract, right? It was $50 million rather since 2004 because of our efforts. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I went to Washington, D.C. lobbying members of Congress. We were able to get that $50 million increased to $75 million. So we had more spend going to a number of local companies on security, and not just security, but other pieces of that convention to make a successful convention for everybody that was involved. Doesn't matter if they were in the security business, doesn't matter if they're in the hospitality business, doesn't matter if they're in the food and beverage business as well. Everybody got the chance to take part and to take something home.
So what matters now most to the people of Milwaukee when they look at this ticket and they're going to the voting booth, and goodness, less than 3 months now, what's important to your constituents?
My constituents are going to want to know which candidate is going to work for them. Which candidate is interested in serving the people versus which candidate is more interested in serving themselves, right? And when you look at the policies of Kamala Harris and Governor Walz, what they want to do as president and vice president of this country, and you contrast that with what Donald Trump has proposed to do for this country and Senator J.D. Vance have proposed to do for this country, it's as clear as day. I mean, not even just the deliverables, the actual deliverables that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have made for black people in this country, but when you look at some of the things, there's some of the nasty things that have been said and talked about on the Republican side towards black people and Americans in general. There is a clear-cut choice for African Americans and people generally in this country about who should be leading us forward. And I think that person is Kamala Harris, and I really can't wait to elect her the 47th president of the United States.
What do you say to the people that say, oh, she was an attorney general, but she doesn't have enough experience? What do you say to the people that say, I don't really know her because in the role of vice president, you don't see them that much? Well, what do you say to the people that say, can a woman run this country?
Oh, a woman absolutely can run this country. I mean, just think about it. Women run so many things around us already. I mean, I can't even walk out of my house, right, without a woman's touch because a woman runs my house. I mean, inside of our government, whether it's elections, whether it's the Office of Equity and Inclusion, whether it's our Department of Neighborhood Services building inspectors, women run each and every single one of those very, very important divisions within my administration and more. So women absolutely can run this country. In terms of her being a prosecutor, yes, she was a prosecutor. That was her job, to make sure that communities were safe. And let me tell you, I mean, as a prosecutor, she took on people who were perpetrators, right? She took on people who were cheaters. She took on people who were fraudsters. And Donald Trump matches every single one. So she says it best. She knows his type. And there's nobody better positioned to prosecute the case against Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. And I can't wait to see her on that debate stage and take the case directly to him. And again, go on to become the president of the United States.
We know that as we're here at the Democratic National Convention, most of this week is, of course, rallying behind Vice President Harris, but also it's a send-off to President Joe Biden, who has been in politics for almost half a century. When we talk about communities of color, he's done a lot for Americans, but he's done a lot for diverse minority groups around our country.
Yeah, he has. And, I mean, Joe Biden, my heart warms when I think about Joe Biden. It really, really does. Like, I feel like I'm a Joe Biden Democrat, and he's done so much in service to this country. I mean, just to even think about him getting into politics in the first place, right? It's because he was encouraged by Dr. King. That's why he's got a bust of Dr. Martin Luther King in the Oval Office right now, right? Just think about that. Just think about the deliverables that under his leadership have come to black people. If you're a young person looking to attend a historically black college or university, the most resources ever from the federal government happen under President Joe Biden's leadership. If you're somebody who was negatively affected by marijuana law, as black people have been in this country, well, the rescheduling of that, or attempted rescheduling of that, is happening under President Joe Biden. If you're a young girl and you're interested in becoming a lawyer, an attorney, or perhaps a judge, well, there's a black woman sitting on the United States Supreme Court right now because Joe Biden made a promise to do that. I mean, even with Kamala Harris, right? he said that he would select a black woman to be his running mate. And here is Kamala Harris, and she's going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. All these things go back to a single source. That's Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden. That I can't say enough about that, man. It gives me just goosebumps just thinking about him. He's done so much for this country, and all of us, each and every single one of us, has benefited from that man and his presidency and his leadership over the course of the last half century.
Before we let you go, what can we expect from Vice President Harris when she takes that stage on Thursday night?
When Vice President Harris takes the stage on Thursday night, I think she's going to showcase what we've seen over the course of the last number of weeks. Joy. She's going to showcase unity on the Democratic ticket.
Unity is what was here in 2008. Is that how you're feeling? President Obama, that was unity. It was hope. It was change. Are you feeling any of that?
Absolutely.
In that historical moment? Absolutely. It feels like we're coming full circle?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the rallies that she's got, I mean, as I said, the one that was in our community, every segment of society was represented there. Just like you saw in 2008 with Senator Obama at the time, who then went on to become president, right? With Kamala Harris, you're seeing the exact same thing. Like, people are coming out of the woodworks. There are more people standing on the outside than the inside of some of these venues, just because she's drawing out the best in America. And that's exactly what we need in this moment, especially with the challenge that we have with her opponent on the other side, who is self-serving and will be destructive to this country. And we don't want to go back. She says it best. We are not going back. We're not going back.
You kind of said that like President Obama says. We're not going back. Mayor Johnson, thank you so much for joining us here on Politics in Color. Good luck to you as mayor of Milwaukee. And I liked it enough, but I don't know when I'll be back. But thank you.
You got to come on back.
We'll come on back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.